CV, please.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my CV. Can you
Yeah.
see? Yeah.
So it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Rupali. She is the editor IFS, joint editor 2022-24, web editor and executive member of IFS. She is fellowship in ART faculty at MIT. She's currently has won many awards to her credit. And I request Dr. Rupali, stage is all yours. Please proceed.
Okay. Dr. Good
Dr.
evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening. How are
Good
you?
evening, sir. Also, we are lucky to have Dr. K.D. Nair, sir. Sir has presented so many papers, even in ASRM also. 30 international presentations, 27 international presentations in ESHRE. Tapisar, he got the Tapisar Lifetime Achievement Award in 2022, Foxy Achiever Award in 2023. He is the immediate past president of IFS, convener of Education Committee IFS, and vice chair at ISIG ASRM. He has also got the ISA Lifetime Achievement Award in 2024. Sir, please, so many star awards in ASRM consecutively 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Sir, we are so lucky to have you for this important topic today. Our researchers, our young Turks, they are, somehow we are lacking in publishing our data. So we would need your guidance for this basic, very important topic. Dr. Rupali, please start.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nisha. After such kind words, I'm really honored to be presenting here. And this topic is very close to my heart because I think all of us need to be working towards this. Whether we are new to the area, whether we are young Turks or we are the older Turks or the elder Turks, everybody has to be, you know, getting familiarized with paper publication. And it is an important part of research, of working. What actually is paper presentation, publication? It is a formal process where research findings. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Very clear.
So, a formal process where research findings are shared with the academic and the scientific community. Published papers contribute to the knowledge base in a specific field of science. And why do we actually need to publish? Now, that also is very important. We need to share knowledge to contribute to the academic community. It's essential part of career advancement. Certain jobs like professors, etc., researchers, they need to publish papers so that they can prove that they are a part of the group. Then reputation building. It helps in establishing credibility and recognition in your field of study. As well as this way, by publishing papers, you can actually influence research, help in policy making, designing new policies, as well as various industry practices pertaining to the specific field. Now, what are the different types of papers? Now, there are various types broadly for everybody for simple purposes for the young Turks to remember is one is an original research, then you have a case report, then you have the review articles. There are various type of review articles. You have the systematic reviews with meta-analysis, without meta-analysis, and this now the latest edition is a network meta-analysis. Apart from that, there can be laboratory based studies, research letters, letter to the editor, video article, invited articles like reflections and inklings. Going to the previous slide, just a second, previous, yeah. Sorry. You all, when you talk of original research, research can be like a big research, which is a clinical trial. Clinical trial is usually a registered trial, which is registered with a specific registering body. Then you have cohort studies or case control studies where you take cases and parallel to that, then you take controls where you start making observations or doing interventions in these groups. And then you have other observational studies like cost effectiveness analysis, they can be decision analysis, studying of screening, diagnostic tests, comparative effectiveness research of any intervention, which is probably new or even an existing intervention with a slight uh, deviation, genetic association, quality improvement studies, survey studies, cross sectional studies. Now, going to the basic paper writing process. First and foremost, for any paper writing process, is the idea. You have to think of a topic. Now, how do you choose a topic? How does any researcher choose a topic? A researcher would choose a topic, anything which is relevant to their field of study, very relevant. If you're doing IVF, maybe related to IVF, or non infertility, if you're doing whatever you're doing, maybe obstetrics, etc. It should have a novel value to it. It should be manageable. It should be very simple topic where you think you can manage. Initially itself, you think, okay, that you have that cohort of patients, you have that type of patients which you can work on. How do you go further? You conduct research, gather data through experiments, surveys, sources. They can be primary sources, directly, secondary sources, etc. After you've gathered data, the data is put to analysis. Very, very simple terms. This is the entire gist of my talk, actually. So, an analysis of data is very, very important because that is what will help us to decide whether the initial question, the study question which we thought was correct, the initial hypothesis which the researcher thinks is correct or wrong. And then you draw conclusions based on that. And after all these steps, only we start writing a paper where the publication part comes, where we are going to be talking about the structure of paper, the abstract, introduction, methodology, results, discussion, and conclusion. The structure of a research paper. We have the title, which should be usually brief and descriptive of the study. Too long titles take the essence away. Then you have the abstract. Abstract in one line is summary of studies, objectives, methods, and conclusions. Introduction. Introduction primarily would mean the background, the objectives, and hypothesis. These are the three things which I will talk to you in a little while also. The methodology would mean research methods used to gather the data. So the entire process which the patient or your subjects go through, how the research was conducted from the beginning to the end is written in the methodology. The results, the data findings, often with tables or figures. Discussion is interpretation of the results, implications, and future work. Conclusion is finally the summary of the key findings and their significance, further scope, and lacunae. Going to the title. Now, title should usually be precise and descriptive. It should include keywords for search optimization. Search optimization means that you once you publish your paper, it should be read further. So, for it to be read further, if your title has those keywords which you think the people, the readers would like to read, you should include those keywords. This reflects paper's primary aim or research question. You should avoid jargon or overly technical terms unless necessary, and make sure it is concise yet informative. Then we go ahead with the abstract. It can even be up to say 500 words. A brief, concise summary of the entire paper usually would be around 2,000 words. If it's an original research, can even extend to 2,000 to 3,000 words. So the people in the waiting room is just a second. Sorry. So this abstract could include topics like aims, objectives, material, methods, results, conclusion, and sometimes these topics may not be relevant. If you're writing a case report, you might not need these topics. Key findings are implications and implications of the paper should be mentioned briefly in the abstract, and it gives us an overview of the of the entire paper. The abstract should have some findings why the reader should read it, why the reader should be pulled, away from other papers and should look into your paper and try to analyze, to read, go through the paper. Introduction. Building. This deals with building a background towards the main objectives and or hypothesis around which the entire research is based. So it's a usually a very short description, but it'll build a background towards the actual hypothesis. So you're trying to slowly create it like a story where you're initially writing about the background, about the general population from which your subjects would come. It should arouse inquisitiveness amongst the readers and encourage them to go through the paper. The reasons or discrepancies in the available literature and the study question may also be mentioned probably in a line. Why study question, which is being proved or disproved, should also be discussed. Broad population from which these patients are being taken should also be described. It has components. What are the important components are background and literature review just in one line or maybe two lines, statement of research problem which is there in the present population, hypothesis or research questions, objectives and scope of the study. A methodology is a flow of work pattern and technique designed to address the study question. Very important, a robust design is the key to a good study. This will only help us. A good robust design is a must for a good paper to be published. What are the components? Components of methodology are, we have the research design, which can be qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. Data collection methods used like surveys, experiments, interviews, other sampling techniques, data sources. How the suppose you're taking a study of some IVF patients, you should start with their, being included in the study. Once you start taking them as subjects or as controls, and then how you dealt with them. Did you take them for an ultrasound? Did you do a blood test? Were they counseled? What were the results of the blood test? And what treatment did you give them further? And so forth. Tools and instruments used, statistical analysis or theoretical framework. This would also be very important. Now this is a most integral part of, one of the most integral part of the methodology. To begin with, you have to, diversify your subjects into controls and the study group, and choose a proper sample size, a proper adequate sample size. If a sample size can, a small sample size can only be acceptable only if the investigating disease process is rare or the sampling techniques are too costly and complicated. Suppose you're doing some process where the cost of the analysis is very high, there you would obviously want to take a smaller sample and then try to find out. Or if it's a very rare disease, there again, you can't expect to have too many subjects, too many patients in the sample size. But if, on the other hand, insufficiently small sample size makes it challenging to reproduce the results and may produce high false negatives, which in turn undermine the scientific impact of research. And underpowered studies, which have less number of subjects and controls, will fail to determine the effect, will fail to show you an effect. So the whole motive of you writing the paper also gets underpowered. In simple terms, it gets less significant. But you also have to remember on the other end of the spectrum that if your sample size is too large, that is also not okay. An adequate sample size is adequate. You can't say that you can just have a endlessly large sample size, because too large a sample size sometimes may be ethically unacceptable, particularly if you're dealing with a phase 1 study where human subjects are exposed to risks. And a very large sample size may lead to p values that are less than the significant level. That means they're significant in spite of not being significant, even if the effect is not practical or clinically important. That means the number of false positives increase. So, an optimum sample size is essential for any good research. So it should not be too large, it should not be too small, but an optimal sample size. And how do you get that? To So you get that with the help of specific formulae. Now, there are many books which are available, softwares which are there, but always a good practice is to consult a statistician, a researcher, so that you can avoid all kind of errors. So do not consult a statistician once your results are out, once you have started, your data is out. Ideal time is to contact them at the beginning. Yes, there are various softwares which are available over online, where you can kind of put them on specifically for medical and health research studies. Also, we do have certain softwares which are there, like the OpenEpi, GPAR, Wang, and G. Now, based on your statistical analysis, will you design a study? The study objective and research question will vary. When possible, determine the effect size. When you're trying to determine a sample, doing an effect size is also very important. Now, what is effect size? Effect size would mean effect, in simple terms, of the intervention, of the methodology of the drug which is being tried. So effect size is defined as the minimum effect of an intervention in order for must having, in order to be considered clinically or practically significant. It is inversely proportional to sample size. If the sample size is big, the effect size is smaller. Now, if how do you determine this effect size? It is also determined by experience, by judgment, by previous designed studies. You can look up a systematic review, you can look up similar studies on the topic which we are planning to study. Now, when we talk in terms of descriptive studies, good way to determine the sample sizes, determine the confidence intervals, determine the margin of random error. If the mean value if the mean value is of interest, then we determine standard deviation. If the proportion of the ratio, the proportion of the trait is what is you're looking for, then you have to determine the proportion. Now, for sample size calculation, these are the standard things which you need to know. You need to know a population size. If the population size is known, it should be determined. Set a margin of error, decide an acceptable margin of error, which is usually inversely proportional to the precision. A confidence level should be determined, which is usually around 95% in most of the studies. And confidence interval is again to be determined, which also depends upon the estimate of the value of interest plus minus the margin of error, as I told in the previous one. The standard deviation from the midpoint, from the expected value, should be known. And if it is not known, then a value of zero point 0.5 is safe. Alpha error is alpha value, or a type 1 error should be determined. The statistical power of the study should be determined before you calculate a sample size. And a good and easy way out is that you go to a statistician, tell him, show him studies which are in the same, are similar to what your research topic is, and then kind of go ahead with it. It is very important to clearly define the subjects. Now, clear definition of subjects is very important. Why? Because many times the exclusion criteria, the inclusion criteria which are written in the research paper are not clear. Now, this part is somewhere where is a point where I really wanted to stress upon. Once you're clear of the subjects, then only you can put in a good paper. So it's an integral part of a good study design, a robust study design, that the subjects are clearly defined. The criteria of inclusion and exclusion should be very specifically written before you go ahead with the further study. Now we go to the sampling techniques. There are two types of sampling techniques. If the population of interest is very small, then we can still go for a non probability sampling. But otherwise, more commonly and carrying much more value is probability sampling, also called as random sampling. It's a kind of sample selection where randomization is used so that every member of the population has equal probability of being chosen. The other is non probability sampling, where it is applicable for exploratory or qualitative data in smaller studies. Conclusion summarizes the study's findings, emphasizing their significance, providing newer insights or broader implications. Simple final statement on hypothesis question in relation with the results. Components of conclusion would be restate the main findings and their implication, and propose directions for future studies. Now, very some miscellaneous points from the articles which I have seen and I have reviewed as a peer reviewer are: it's very very important to mention the author names, affiliation, address, and the contribution by each author should ideally be written very very clearly and separately. Keywords should be mentioned at the end or the beginning of the article. When you put in a cover letter, there itself you can mention it. Abbreviation, if used, should have expanded form written very, very clearly at the point of first usage. Now, these are very basic things, but they kind of knock off, they kind of put off the reviewer, because these are very basic things. All the drugs should have dosage, exact dosage, whatever is administered, route of administration, the trade name used. If the person is using even an HCG injection, they should mention what was the exact name of the company, what was the exact you know uh, company name, or the pharmaceutical name which has been used in that drug, and the company's country of manufacture should be mentioned. All the list of symbols should be mentioned in the end. Very important, and very important, without which paper will never be accepted, is that one, authorship should be in correct order. The data integrity is extremely important, and now there are a few softwares where this can be cross checked, and especially because now there is a trend of systematic reviews being written, there again the data is cross checked. So integrity of data without manipulation is a must. Disclose all potential conflicts of interest. Plagiarism should be avoided at by all means. Acknowledgements and taken for the help of writing paper should be mentioned. Financial consideration and use of AI should be declared at the end of the paper. Now, choosing a journal very quickly, that's the last bit of my talk, is we choose a journal based on the relevance. Whatever topic you feel you are going to be talking about, you choose it according to your area of interest, whatever the the article is directed towards. Scope of audience, consider the target readership. Which area does the journal cater to? You do that. And what is an impact factor? Now, impact factor is the average number of times a paper is cited up to 2 years following publication. High impact factor journals often ensure greater visibility. This is calculated by dividing the number of citations received by a journal in a given year to the total number of articles published in the previous 2 years. Another important guiding factor is the immediacy index. It is a metric that measures how quickly your journal articles are cited. It's calculated by dividing the number of citations to the articles published in a given year by the number of articles published in that year. Open access versus subscription. Now, open access makes research freely available to the global audience and is the newer trend nowadays. So you need to think about your own article, your own readership, and then take it. Apart from that, there are three other things. One is the lead time, the time taken by any journal from the receipt, from the initial receipt to publication, that can also be made out, and peer review process, a critical evaluation of the paper by experts in the field. Apart from that, there are certain other things like the journal metrics. Metrics would mean how well the journal is read throughout the world. This is also visible in most of the journals. Cost of publication, if there is cost to the author. Journal search open access. ISSN number is an international standard serial number which is possessed by almost all journals. And uh, here I would also like to tell you people that there's something called as predatory journals, which all of us should be cautious of. There is a list of journals which is available, list of predatory journals which is available on Google. They do not have a proper peer review process, most of these predatory journals, and your name would be kind of black marked usually if you do not, if you publish in those predatory journals. So I would put in a like a word of caution to all of you that please be careful of these journals and try and avoid publishing in these journals. So before you pick up any journal, look for the fact whether it is a predatory journal or not, because those journals are something where you do not want to be associated with, for later on also. How does the process work? You submit a manuscript, assign and review. It's assigned for a review. The reviewer is the one who accepts, rejects, or re reviews an article. After they re review, if they send the author for revision, each comment by the reviewer should be addressed by the author one by one. So every bit of it, no comment should be left. Each change which is done by the author should be modified and highlighted. You have to, apart from that, if it's done in the main script, you do it there and put in a separate rebuttal file in the end for answering all the questions, all the queries. In case no change, if you feel that yes, this does not warrant a change, please provide a strong evidence. So being an author doesn't mean that you can't defend yourself. Just defend yourself, provide a strong evidence, give reasons, and fine, go ahead with it. And uh, very, very important that no comment from the reviewer should be ignored. As a peer reviewer, the the paper has to be assessed completely by the peer reviewer in terms of validity, authenticity, significance of a work. You have to also assess whether the approach by the author is ethical, a logical analysis of methodology is being done, overall pattern of writing in adherence with the guidelines provided by the journal should be checked. Recommendation by the reviewer is very critical for further accepting, rejecting, or revision of the paper. Post publication, as an author, you have to promote your paper, and nowadays social media is a huge thing. Even for that matter, apart from academic platforms like ResearchGate, Google Scholar, Instagram, also LinkedIn, you should start kind of promoting your own paper is a good way to go ahead. Citations, monitor and increase citations to enhance visibility. Respond to feedback, engage with readers and critics to improve further work, future work. In case you have some letters from the editor, some questions by the other readers, you should respond to it immediately. This is the IFS journal. It's called Fertility Science Research. And we do have, I think, most of the points for publishing. We'd like to invite all of you for publishing there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rupali. That was really, really awesome. And I think we'll have some expert words from Sir, and then we can, discuss few points which are there.
Yeah, it's our honor to have Dr. K.D. Nair, sir. We all know Dr. K.D. Nair, sir. He has maximum publication everywhere in ASHRAE, ASRM, all international. So, sir, we are waiting for your expert comments.
I
And
think
excellent, Dr. Rupali. It was really awesome.
Dr. Rupali has done a good
Wonderful.
job explaining how to go about publishing a paper. Now, there are two issues I like to discuss. One thing is publishing a paper in a journal. Second is sending your abstract for conferences. Like we recently had for division, and we had invited free papers and posters for the conference. When you are sending for any conference like ASRM or ASHRAE or for division, you have to follow the guidelines which are given on the site of the conference, how you should be sending your paper. You have to follow the proper guideline. What is the word limit? Like in the last division, which was in Ahmedabad, we were very clear what should be the word count. You have to adhere to this. The abstract title was 25 words, study question was 25 words. What is currently known was 150 words, study design 150 words, material method 150, aims and objective 25, results 200, limitation of study 50, conclusion was 50, whether you have any conflicting interest, whether it is a clinical trial or not, whether ethical clearance was done or not. So you have to follow in that particular order. You cannot change that order on your wish. Any conference will give you the guideline how to submit the paper and follow it. Dr. Rupali has already mentioned that you have to, abbreviation has to be defined first time when they are used. And there are small things like abstract title should not be in capital, and the list of author has to be listed in a serial order. And you have to prepare at least 2 to 5 minimum keywords. And according to the conference, whether you are member or you are not member, you have to follow those instruction. And all the papers, all the abstracts are reviewed by the expert committee reviewers, and then they will select. Generally, in ASRM conference or ASHRA conference, the selection rate is almost 60%. That if you receive 100 abstracts, 60 abstracts are selected. Out of 60, maybe 20 are selected for oral presentation and 30, 35 are selected for poster presentation. That depend upon this review by the review committee. This is for the presentation in the conference where you have to follow the guidelines given on the website of the conference. Like actually has little different guidelines. I present in ASM regularly. ASM has little different guidelines. So we follow their guidelines. Once this paper are accepted, either a free paper, oral paper or poster, they are generally published in their journal like fertility study supplement or human reproduction supplement. These papers are also published there also. All the papers which are present in the conference are published there. Once these papers are published, now you see in the last ASRM, I had done a poster on PRP. Somehow it was so impact, I think it was a so-called impact that there was a what you called, there was a
Journalists talking about it.
yeah, journalists were talking and they were asking, they were writing, they were asking me the questions about the technical part of it, and I answered it. So that is what I explained, that even after presenting a poster, I was exposed to the journalist asking me the questions. And at the end of it, after ASN conference finished, I have received invitation from 10 journals that we should send this article for publication. Now, if I have to send this article for publication, I have to little bit redo the presentation. Not what I had done in the ASM conference was a time limited. They are set, they I have to follow that instruction. And of course, it was a poster presentation. So I was allowed there to answer few questions also who came and asked me the questions. But if I have to submit the same paper for publication in a journal, I have to probably follow the same guideline which Dr. Rupali has detailed, that you have to write the abstract of this, the summary, and follow this systematically. It cannot be haphazard. And most important is, it is from my personal experience, that if you are doing any work and if you are presenting any work, these days it is very important to take ethical clearance. We are very fortunate to have the ethical committee of our society, Indian Fertility Society, and we can always anytime go and present any research topic and we can get ethical clearance. That is number one. Number two, I am forgetting, Dr. Rupali might be remembering, there is this place in ICMR where you can register your trial number. What is its name? Dr. Rupali, you know this place?
Sir,
You
it's in the
can-
ICMR office. It's
Yeah, you can register your trial. You can register your trial number, and many a time they are asking you for this trial number. Recently, this fellow from England who was also in Fertivision, Babu Jan from UK,
also BB John, BB
PB
John.
John, he wanted me to give me the presentation I had done in a dual trigger, and he wanted to be very sure whether that I got a trial number or not. Then I told him I got a trial approval from my local committee, not from the central committee. But people are aware that you have to register with your you must have a trial number.
CTRI is the registering body,
Yeah,
the
that's
Clinical
it.
Trial Registry
Yeah,
of
CT.
India. Yeah.
And it is very simple. Once you finalize your study, you simply write them a mail, give them the all the sketch of the details. They will send you a trial number, and that is what help you in publishing it. The ethical committee, the trial number, these are very important. So you do any project, you have to follow the instructions. You have to follow the instruction of that. If you are sending for a conference, follow the instruction on the conference website. If you are sending it for publication, you have to follow the journal. Now, very recently, you see, we have presented that IFS guidelines on poor ovarian response. We wanted to publish it. We prepared a manuscript and we told the writing team to prepare the manuscript for human reproduction update. Now, suddenly, now we realized, we found out from Dr. Shesh in Fertivision that human reproduction update does not publish any guideline. It is human reproduction which will publish only ASHRAE guideline. They don't publish any other guidelines. And for other outside guidelines, you have to publish it in human reproduction open. The format of human reproduction update is very different, and format of manuscript is very different from human reproduction update. Now we are redoing that manuscript. If I want to send to any other journal, I will have to follow that journal guidelines, how to format my manuscript. It is not that my manuscript is ready and I can send to 10 journal. Okay, please go through my manuscript and see it is fit for publication or not. I have to first format the manuscript according to the journal, and then only I will send. So now we are trying redoing it so that we can resubmit it in human reproduction open. We plan to send it to other journal also, but as a policy, you can publish it only one journal as a policy. You cannot you can publish another journal also with some redoing this stuff. You cannot publish word to word the same thing in two journals. You have to do some redoing. It will do it. But what I am trying to say it is you have to see the journal also. What is the guidelines of journal? What format they want? You have to follow that format. Only then it will be accepted for publication. Otherwise, no. So that is what we have learned very recently. You have to follow the format of the journal. You have to follow so many things.
Very valid point, sir. Very valid point. I think the one thing I always confuse with us, sir, that when we are doing some kind of, when we are trying to publish a paper, Usually we have to prepare the protocol and go according to the protocol only. Sometimes what is happening is that there are cases where we might need to do a little bit of adjustment for the patient's sake. So this dilemma is always there in the mind, that whether you have done the right thing for the patient or not. So any suggestion how to overcome that, or what to do in those cases?
Dr. Nisha, you see, you are very clear. You should be very clear when you are doing any project, scientific project, that what is your aim?
Aim.
What
Yes.
is the aim? You have to be very clear what is the aim, what is your study question, and what you already know about the subject. Then you can create a study design, material methods, aims. That is how you follow. Like
Yes.
I did this presented a poster on PRP. So I was very clear in my mind that we are going to do PRP on day 7, day 9, and day 11 of the frozen embryo transfer cycle. And we'll see what is the effect on the endometrial thickness. Now, in this study, we had a limited number 50 patient. So if I had given any patient only 2 times, day 7 and day 9, and day 11, I didn't give it. I don't need to give it because endometrial lining is already increased. So this type of patient can be included in the study because we have given the same medicine, same thing, and we are giving on day 7 and day 9, and we found the result is already there. So the third dose is not needed. That's
Okay.
PRP. But I cannot use that for one patient. I was using PRP, and for other patient I was using GCF. I cannot include that.
The methods have to be clear. Okay.
You have to be very clear
Okay.
that I cannot include patient to whom I am giving GCF to in this study. No.
Okay.
I just want to add one more thing, Dr. Nisha. So,
Yeah.
a good paper will have an intention to treat analysis. Now, that's one thing which the reviewers look into, in the sense that initially you will have a big group of patients always, and
Hmm.
there has to be some amount of patients where you will deviate away. Either
Yeah.
your patients go out, or you are not able to do, or you do a different thing. Like, so
Hmm.
there you have to create an so the initial number which is used, like you have to include that in the chart and then create something called as an intention, ITT. So,
Okay.
like, when people are reviewing, like those like especially for systematic reviews and all, when they're reviewing, they look at it for the value of, for the, whether your paper is good or not. And one of the points which nowadays is taken is ITT, which is intention to treat analysis, whether
That's
you
very
included that chart or not, because you
okay.
are bound to deviate. It is natural to deviate.
Yeah.
And so you, I mean, that ways, that's what was presented by one of the speakers in one of the.
That is excellent, Dr. Rupali. I think many of my doubts are clear today. So it is
Mm.
it is a wonderful presentation, and thank you so much to you, and thank you so much to Sir, that Sir took out the time and be there for the Young Turks. I think we at the end of it, I might share, if you are okay with that, we can give some pointers to the Young Turks in terms of some sort of summary, so that they know that who to approach, what to
So
do.
we need more pointers about ASRM,
Yeah.
ASRM and ASHRAE, because
and
you're
and
inspirational in the way you have been presenting, and it's an inspiration for us also.
So
yeah.
the other thing is, when I send my data there, you
Mhm.
have to be very, very clear about the statistics. What type of statistics you are presenting, what is the p-value you are presenting, what are the other data, because as I understand from my long experience, many a time few of the reviewers are only checking for the statistics, nothing else.
Okay. Okay.
They because they are certain maybe Rupali is knowing there are certain modules available on the internet
Right. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
feed in the data and check whether the
Mhm.
data is what you are providing the data is correct or not. So
Mhm.
they can pick up very quickly it is whether it is manipulated,
Mhm. So in the
fake or
Navy,
not.
we had a presentation this time where Dr. Jared Robbins, the
Yeah,
RM CEO, he had presented a talk where he told us that if you look at the data, you will be able to make out that this is not, this is fudged up. This is
yeah.
Mm,
people cook it
mm,
up, like
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
even numbers, a lot of same values. Those
Hmm.
kind of things means that it is cooked up. So he said the
Okay.
chances are very, very low, 0.0001. Like, and he said that, so that means it's cooked up like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Those kind of
So I, at the end of it, I also invite again message from Dr. Rupali that you all are invited to present in our journals. We have. Can you please give a repeat message regarding this, Dr. Rupali?
we have an excellent journal which is now about to be indexed with Embase very soon, and it's a peer review journal. With a lot of big shots, like we've got the ex RBMO online founder editor on the board and international editors on the board, which help you to review, and they not only help us to review the papers, we also have a committee where we can help you and guide you into writing papers if you have data, if you have issues. And although we have a good acceptance rate, but not all papers will be accepted. We might reject them if they are very bad and help you out further, contact you personally. So everybody, especially the young researchers, we really, uh, everybody is very, very keen, especially the senior faculty which we have. They really want the young research to come forward and at least make an attempt to publish, because that way we can guide you, correct you, and help you through. We have a very rapid publication system. We previously were having 4 issues. Now it's as and when it comes, we are publishing it. So and we are getting some international publications as well now. But so it'll definitely be a good learning experience, as well as benefit for you in terms of publication, because publications do carry a lot of value. uh,
Yeah, really
for,
nice.
yeah.
And how do they approach? Like, how do they go about it? Who should they approach if they want to, publish or do something?
So the ideal way is that you have to write a paper. I mean, obviously, it has to be the beginning process has to be through you, through the young Turks, through the researcher only, and they put it up on the website. There is a proper fertility science research website with an author area, like a standard. It's we are affiliated with Scientific Scholar right now, so like an international standard website where you put in your article. They'll ask you for conflict of interest. They'll ask you for all the details, the author details, reviewer suggestions, conflict of interest form, a covering letter, and everything. So, and the author guidelines are also very nicely and clearly given there, that, okay, if it's a review article, it has to be in, say, 2000 words, 2000 to 2500, been of more of around 15 references. Vancouver style is the way of referencing, and these are the basic things which are written there, and one can go through whatever they have. You can even start with review articles. So for people who do not have data, can just start with basic review articles, or start with case reports, case series. These are simple things. Or even start with a letter to the editor. All these columns are there which can be published. So if you feel that your data is not enough, or it's too much of a effort initially, go for a retrospective study rather than going for a prospective study. And the name of the journal is Fertility Science and Research. I'll put it in the chat box also.
Yeah, please.
The same has a website. Just type in Fertility Science and Research on the Google, Google
Dr.
sites.
Rupali, maybe you can send me a message. I'll put it in the group, in the Young Tugs group.
Yes, sure. I will definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Dr.
will also
Rupali, for
send
the excellent overview of the subjects and giving them all the details. Still, if they have any problem, they can personally contact you. You can put your mobile number
sure.
here. And thank
I'm
you,
there in the
sir,
group
for
also.
your
I'm there in the
person
Young Turks
wisdom.
group. I'm
Yeah.
there in the Young Turks group also, and I can just.
Okay. Okay. Please do that. Please do that. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir,
so
for
much.
taking so much time for all of us.
Thank you.
And now we are going to start debate also from the next month. So anybody interested, please tell us who are interested for the debate. And Dr. Nisha, can you tell the topic for the debate for the next month?
So the topic for the debate for next month is freeze all cycles. Somebody would speak for, and one person would speak against. So the names, we will all the I will put the topic in the group, and then everybody interested can put their names, and then we'll have a draw so that we can tell them who's gonna do that.
So this draw is like a randomization, which we
Yeah. Yeah.
participation.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we are going to put that topic in the group, and then everybody can, who all are interested, can give their names, and then we'll have a draw. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Rupali. Thank you so much, sir, for an excellent
Thank you.
insight into the wonderful world of research, which I'm really scared of. And I think our young Turks will get motivated to publish.
You
Thank
all
you,
have made
Neeru
it so
ma'am.
simple to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Hi,
Neeru, ma'am.
hi, everybody.
Dr.
Thank
Nisha.
you. Thank you, sir. Good night. Good night.
Sir. Good night, sir.
Thank you. Hello.